I'm so glad you're here. Put yourself a cup, get cozy. I have something to tell you, but just between us. That summer, a young couple moved into the apartment below us, and my husband and I were thrilled. The rest of our neighbors were grumpy seniors, so we desperately needed some younger energy for balance. The newcomers were quiet and polite, but they never lingered for small talk, always slipping quickly behind their old oak door. A few months later, a second stroller appeared in the lobby next to my daughter's. It was almost identical, but brand new, still wrapped in protective plastic. I was over the moon. My daughter wouldn't be the only child in the building. They could visit each other, go to school together, and play at the playground. Breaking the ice with our neighbors instantly became my top priority. I bought a small, elegant box of Belgian chocolates and secretly slipped it into their stroller, along with a polite note wishing the parents to be health and strength. I wrote it in Polish, but the new neighbor somehow knew we were Ukrainian. A few days later, she approached me, speaking Ukrainian, and sincerely thanked me for the treat. That was how the friendship began. Our backstories couldn't have been more different. I had moved to Poland to study, while Milana came here to get married. My parents lived in a neighboring town, but her entire family was back in Ukraine. My husband and I both worked, and I brought in the lion's share of our income, whereas Milana depended entirely on her husband's money. Yet, we had so much in common. We were both mothers to young daughters, and we shared a love for books and crafts. Belonging to the same generation, we had identical memories of growing up in Ukraine. Neither of us cared for loud parties, heavy drinking, or flashy clothes, and both of us felt completely overwhelmed by motherhood and routine. "Did you hear anything last night?" Milana asked out of the blue during our walk. "No, should I have?" I replied cheerfully, completely caught off guard. "Was the baby screaming that loudly? Bath time." "No, not the baby," she sighed. "Radek put his hands on me last night." An awkward silence hung between us. My husband had mentioned hearing them argue whenever he smoked on the balcony, but I never expected quiet, smiling Radek to hurt his wife, especially since she had just given birth to their daughter a couple of months ago. "What the hell?" I muttered, completely stunned. "What did you do?" "I called the police," Milana said flatly. "He thought that because I'm a foreigner, I wouldn't know the language or my rights. Well, he got a surprise." I was deeply moved by her courage, but a tight lump formed in my throat. When my own husband had put his hands on me, I had been too ashamed to tell a living soul, let alone call the police. "The scene was massive," Milana continued, "but the police were useless. They just gave him some warning and told me to contact some kind of social worker or something. Maybe a divorce lawyer?" I suggested. Milana gave me a strange look and shook her head. "No, definitely not that." "So what now?" Her baby girl started whimpering in the stroller, and Milana leaned over to give her the missing pacifier. My question hung in the air. "I don't know what's next or what you'll decide. I don't want to push, but damn it, why was I stammering like I'd forgotten how to speak?" Milana watched me closely, as if she both wanted and dreaded whatever I was about to say. "If you ever need a place to stay, we have a guest couch," I finally managed. She smiled warmly and nodded, then changed the subject. "I'm still not sure if I said what she needed to hear back then." Their fights became more and more frequent. Milana would drop by for coffee, quietly blinking away tears over her cup as she recounted Radek's latest behavior. He didn't want to send their daughter to daycare, believing a mother should look after her child for as long as possible, ideally until school age. He was against her learning to drive. He made cruel remarks about how her post-pregnancy body looked. He didn't understand why she wasted time on crafts when the floors weren't mopped and fresh dinner wasn't made. And he constantly demanded intimacy when she was exhausted or busy. I don't want any more children, Milana sobbed. I just want Zoe to grow up a bit so I can run away from this monster and finally get back on my feet. But he just keeps pressuring me. I'm even scared to eat or drink anything he touches. What if he slips a sleeping pill into my food and rapes me while I'm unconscious? To me, that last part sounded completely paranoid. But what good would it do to tell her she was exaggerating? All I could offer Milana was a patient, listening ear and a tactful, judgment-free silence. And of course my guest couch. After endless family battles, Milana finally won the right to send her daughter to daycare. We spent hours excitedly planning how our girls would be in the same group, how we'd take turns dropping them off and picking them up, and how we'd support each other. But she never showed up for the scheduled meeting with the director. Mrs. Milana withdrew the application, I was told. She informed us that their family circumstances had changed and the child won't be attending daycare this year. What the hell happened? I was losing my mind, sending her dozens of anxious messages that went completely unanswered. Worried sick, I walked back from the daycare and practically ran into Milana, who was stepping out of the building with a trash bag. I'm sorry, I didn't want to tell you over the phone, she said. Yes, it's true, Zoe is staying home, it's just, well, I'm pregnant again, so I'm not going back to work. I froze, completely dumbfounded, and just stared at her. Milana gave me a sad smile in return. Between us hung a giant green trash bag, reeking horribly. I don't want any more children, she said, but he just keeps pressuring me. I'm even scared to eat or drink anything he touches. What if he slips a sleeping pill into my food and rapes me while I'm unconscious? How was I supposed to ask her about that now? Did her fear come true? It felt like a long bone was stuck in my throat, completely locking my tongue. So, is it a congratulations or... I asked hesitantly. I don't know, Milana sighed, walking past me toward the dumpsters with her foul trash bag. I watched her go, feeling entirely helpless, trying not to think about whether she would now ever find the courage to leave Radek. Hey there! My phone buzzed at 1 a.m. and for some reason I bolted upright in bed. It was a message from Milana's husband. My hand started shaking. I assumed something was horribly wrong. Maybe the baby needed a hospital run and they didn't have a car. Why else would he text me in the dead of night? Hey, what happened? Do you need help? I replied. No, everything's fine. Just wanted to get to know my lovely neighbor a bit better, if you don't mind. How are things? He asked. What the hell? Milana and I had suspected for a while that Radek was flirting with other women on social media. He would hide his phone from her. He'd lock himself in the bathroom, turning the water on full blast to whisper to someone. He stayed up late, endlessly scrolling, but I wasn't some abstract girl from the internet. I was very real, living just a ceiling away. More than that, I was his wife's friend. If this didn't finally push Milana to leave him, I didn't know what else would. Oh my God, how humiliating, she whispered, seeing his message on my phone, and buried her face in her hands. I am so sorry. You're not the one who should be apologizing. I insisted. That piece of trash should be on his knees begging for your forgiveness. for the rest of his life. Do you want me to help you file for divorce? No, not right now. Maybe later. She thanked and left faster than planned. A few weeks later, they unexpectedly moved out. Supposedly, the apartment was too small for a family with 2 children, though Milana had never mentioned looking for a new place. I watched from the window as she balanced on a bicycle overloaded with bags and packages, clutching a large pot with a thick ficus plant in one hand. Why didn't you ask me to help you move? I wanted to ask her. I have a big car, I could manage it all for you. Milana never said goodbye, nor did she leave her new address. I still try to keep in touch, if only through texts. I ask how she's doing. I recommend new books I've read or share updates about my daughter. Back when I was going through my own divorce, Milana was deeply invested in my court case. She asked a lot of questions, worried about me, and cheered me on. But she never texts first. Radek has been blocked on all my social media for a long time. I even deleted that one wretched chat. Would Milana treat me differently if I hadn't shown it to her back then? I really want to believe that, at least now I am doing what she would want. My cup is empty and it's time to get back to reality. Thank you so much for listening to my Tea Time Whispers.